Hello to all you guys out there in YouTube land. Yes, it's me, dualranger, coming to you from a decidedly happy place today. Well, I've got loads of things planned for the next 24 hours, loads of videos to upload, and loads of things to recommend. So, I'm going to start off with kind of my look at crazy events and odd things that have happened in the world. Kind of my view of the randomness that has occurred. And one of the things is, hold on. Where's my keys? I think I've lost them somewhere. Could you find them? You ever get that feeling like you've lost something, like something really important, and you haven't found it? We'll get back to it later. Anyway, let's move, now as it's a nice day, not in here, but outside, let's move to climes more sunny and open.
Hey, isn't this better? Isn't this nicer? Well, the one thing that's been really kind of apparent in everyone's mind is the credit crunch. You know, and the fact that we've had to bail out banks, which is fine. I mean, there's different economic arguments beside it. So I'm not really here to argue the credence of a bailout. But one thing I am here to argue is, remember my car keys? Remember they went missing? Now, imagine if my car keys, especially car keys, for $350 billion. Yeah, I mean, in a popular show that's been on recently, there was this interesting segment, which I'm going to show to you, and then critique afterwards.
First, as chair of the TARP Oversight Commission, she's in charge of knowing where all of our bailout dollars are going. We want to hear from this person. Elizabeth Warren is joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For lending your expertise.
Thank you.
To our silly late-night comedy show. So, that is your job. You're overseeing the TARP money. First of all, what does TARP stand for again?
Troubled Asset Relief Program.
Troubled assets. Now, these are assets
Yes.
that have been sitting around smoking pot all day?
Mostly. Mostly.
And how much money did we give for this?
Well, we gave $700 billion.
And
So
how did you get this job?
I'm actually not entirely sure.
Who else was up for this job, and then they picked you?
You know, they never told me. It's the truth. I was teaching my classes.
That's a big job, right?
It turned out to be a big job.
That's a huge thing. What would be an analogy in history of someone who had that kind of responsibility in our country?
You know, I don't know, because this is the first time Congress did something this way.
Right.
As you know, Henry Paulson came in and he said, I want $700 billion, no strings attached, or the economy dies. And he said, and I want it now. And Congress said no. They put two restrictions. They said, we're only going to give you half, $350 billion. And they said, we're going to set up this group on the outside that's going to just keep looking at what you're doing and going to make reports back to us every 30 days. And that's the group that I'm the head of.
And so how's that going? How are the banks doing?
Well, there's a little problem with the first $350 billion.
And what is that?
It left, and no one's quite sure where it went. Mostly, now we know it went to the banks.
But that's your job to oversee that.
That's right. But Henry Paulson said, in effect, to the banks, come, take the money. No strings attached. Don't ask.
Don't tell.
Don't tell. and
it's gay money.
I hadn't thought of that. And so the problem is, if you don't ask the banks what they're going to do with the money, then it's not possible to track whether they do it or not. So that's what Treasury One was all about. They gave $350 billion to the banks.
Right.
Then we get
Treasury,
a new administration.
Treasury, is that what you call it, Treasury One?
That's right, because it really is
Treasury
a difference.
2?
We're now in Treasury
The search for Curly's gold?
That's right. And so Secretary Geithner came in, and he's trying to do a lot more with the remaining $350 billion. Remember, this was not their program, so they're trying to kind of break it up and use it in different ways now.
But don't we own stock? I read that we own 36% of Citibank.
Yes, we do, but we don't exercise the kind of control that shareholders usually exercise. So it's a tough position, actually, that we're in right now, trying to figure out how to save the banks, how to deal with the mortgage foreclosure crisis, and then what I think is really the most important thing of all, here we are, we're struggling to get the economy out of the ditch, but the real question is we're starting to think through what's it going to look like going forward.
Right.
Because that's what we're going to decide in about the next 6 months or so, and this is going to be what America looks like for the next 50 years.
Right. So apparently, so we don't have to face this boom and bust cycle again in the future?
Well, you know, that's the real question. I mean, there really are two very different ways to run an economy. If you'll let me. 1792, George Washington is in his first term, and we had what the local papers called a credit freeze in New York, nearly ran this little country into the ground. Every 10 to 15 years, boom, bust, boom, bust, boom, bust, right up to the 1930s. And in the 1930s, we said, you know, we can do better than this. We can have free markets, but we can put some safety rules in place.
And we did, right.
And we did.
We had regulation until they undid it, right.
FDIC insurance, make it safe to put money in banks. Glass-Steagall, don't let banks do crazy things, right? New rules at the SEC. And we bought ourselves 50 years of both security and prosperity at the same time.
Which was, let's be honest, unraveled when a corporatist Democrat, Bill Clinton, worked with the Republicans, who are always corporatists.
Well, let's start the unraveling a little earlier, because it actually starts in the late 1970s, early 1980s, and we start pulling the threads out. And you know, we got our first warning in the late 1980s with the collapse of the savings and loan industry. We closed 700 financial institutions in the United States. And what lesson did we take?
Did you see that? $350 billion. Well, the thing is, I mean, one thing is it's quite reassuring they've actually got someone who's coherent and understands the issues, dealing with it. But 350 billion disappearing? I mean, actually, we know where it's gone to the banks. But where's it gone after that? Where was the accountability? I mean, this is 350 billion people. Like, stop worrying about what some teen idol did and said in a beauty competition, and start worrying where your money's gone, because this is your money. Your money's gone, disappeared. You know, you're not getting it back. So hey, maybe they should concern ourselves with things like this.
Oh wait, how did I get back indoors? That's crazy. I'd never understand this whole teleportation thing. Anyway, I mean, I understand that, you know, abortion is a really key issue and really critical and important for a lot of people. I understand that. I'm not being insensitive. Don't get me wrong. But maybe this abortion issue is not going away anytime soon. And maybe we should deal with the immediate issues first before we tackle issues that really aren't going away. The issue's not going away anytime soon. But the whole point is how we deal with the bailout and how we deal with this financial situation is critical. It's really important. Because otherwise, you know, this is the future of our financial institutions and the setup and people's jobs and livelihoods. And I think that is that's more important. Work out where all this money went, what it got spent on, did it get used? I mean, that to me is important, not necessarily what a Miss Teen and whatever said whenever in some context. Like, come on, people, let's start dealing with the issues. Let's go down to what's important rather than kind of getting sidetracked. I mean, geez. Thanks for listening. Catch you with some more reasonable videos.